Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Voices of British Orthodoxy. Today is the 26th of October, as according to the old calendar. I'm, of course, Rita Laza. Welcome to Voices of British Orthodoxy. Sorry. I hope you're all having a very wonderful day. So this is obviously uploaded a day late, and we have got a lot of saints for you today. I don't actually know what order I want to go back and do this in. I think our first saint of the day is Saint Alfred the Great, and he is from the 9th century. His icon is here. This is an icon of him anyway. I tend to find that Uncut Mountain tend to do the best quality of the icons. And, if we compare that to the icon of Saint Cedd over here, which is a bit blurry because I've zoomed in. This one is very clean, clear, and can be zoomed in on. Anyway, let's go right into it. The holy and right-believing King Alfred the Great was King of Wessex and all Orthodox England from 871 until his repose in 899. A man of deep piety and considerable education, King Saint Alfred unified Anglo-Saxon England in the face of repeated invasions by the Vikings, which he successfully brought to an end. King Saint Alfred promoted education, was a great patron of the church, and a significant figure in the revival of Anglo-Saxon monasticism. King Saint Alfred is also remembered as the father of English prose. He was the first king of the West Saxons to style himself King of the Anglo-Saxons, and is the only English monarch with the appellation the Great. The youngest of the 4 sons of King Aethelwulf of Wessex and his first wife Osburga, King St. Alfred was born in 849 in the village of Wanneting, present-day Wantage in Oxfordshire. King St. Alfred suffered health problems from an early age, which, based upon the detailed descriptions of symptoms given by Asa Vide Infra, is in brackets. Modern physicians believe was most likely Crohn's disease. Due to his illness, King St. Alfred spent time during his youth in Ireland in pursuit of healing to no avail, and he suffered ill health throughout his life. Despite this, King St. Alfred became a great warrior who possessed an outstanding intellect. The primary source of information on King St. Alfred comes from the Vita Elfredi by Asa, and then in brackets it says also known as John Asa or Assyrius Menavensis. Asa was a Welsh monk from St. David's community in Pembrokeshire, one of the scholars of King St. Alfred's court, and later 11th Bishop of Sherborne. And then in brackets it says C.895 to C.909. In 868, King St. Alfred married Ealhswith? Ealhswith, the daughter of Aethelred Musel, Ealdorman of the Gaini, most likely one of the tribes that formed Mercia, and Eadba, a member of the Mercian royal family. Their marriage produced 5 or 6 children, including Edward the Elder, the successor of his father, King Aethelflaed, as his father is king. Aethelflaed, who became Queen of Mercia in her own right. Aethelgifu, who became Abbess of Shaftesbury, and Aethelfrith. That weird A letter, L-F-T-H-R-Y-T-H, who went on to marry Count Baldwin II of Flanders. King St. Alfred assumed the throne of Wessex, as well as responsibility for its defence, on the 23rd of April, 871. Faced with continuing Viking raids, King St. Alfred was soon forced to make a stonewart uneasy peace with them. 5 years later, 876, under their new leader, Guthrum, the Vikings began their attacks anew. In January 878, King Saint Alfred was able to mount an effective resistance from the strategic position of Athelney on an island in the marshes of North Perthton, supported by militias from Somerset, Wiltshire, and Hampshire. King Saint Alfred initiated a well-planned offensive, leading to the defeat of the Vikings at the Battle of Heathendom, which scholarly consensus identifies at present-day Eddington in Wiltshire. The Vikings were forced to retreat to their stronghold at Chippenham, roughly 25 kilometres or 15 miles to the north, where they were starved into submission. After a fortnight of hunger, the Vikings sued for peace, agreeing not only to the usual guarantees to return prisoners and quit King Saint Alfred's kingdom, and that Guthrum would convert to Christianity. Three weeks later, with King Saint Alfred serving as his sponsor, Guthrum, taking the name Aethelstan, was baptized at King Saint Alfred's court at Arles, along with 29 of his chieftains. Based upon Asser's account in his Vida Alfredi, this has been generally referred to as the Peace of Wedmore, and many historians believe that a subsequent document existed known as the Treaty of Wedmore, or occasionally the Treaty of Chippenham. However, there is no evidence that a formal treaty was agreed upon at the time, and the Treaty of Wedmore is actually a modern historical creation. Remember, I do not support, just as a little intermission, I do not support or whatever the weird scholarly whatever that you see in this. Anyway, well, one of the few documents still extant from King Saint Alfred's reign is called the Treaty of Alfred and Guthrum. It is not specifically linked to Wedmore. It is written in Old English, and is in the collection of Corpus Christi College, Cambridge, manuscript 383. It also exists in a Latin version as part of the 12th century compilation of the legal materials known as the Quadripartitus, though there is little doubt the original version was written in Old English. During this time of peace, King Saint Alfred was able to reoccupy London and commence the rebuilding programme, entrusting the city to the care of his son-in-law Aethelred, Ealdorman of Mercia. King Saint Alfred also restructured his military to include a standing mobile field army, a network of garrisons, as well as expanding the naval power of Wessex, which began to patrol the rivers and estuaries of his realm on a regular basis. In addition to his military reorganization, King Saint Alfred worked to revive scholarship, which had suffered greatly during the Viking invasions, recruiting a cadre of clerical scholars from Mercia, Wales, and the continent. King Saint Alfred successfully improved the level of education at the court and of the bishops. A court school was established to educate his own children and the sons of the nobility, as well as intellectually promising boys of lesser birth. Motivated by a lack of books in English, the language he believed primary instruction should be conducted in, King Saint Alfred and his scholars undertook the translation into English of those books he deemed most necessary for all men to know. King Saint Alfred's personal contribution to this undertaking includes translations of St. Gregory the Dialogist's Pastoral Care, Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy, St. Augustine of Hippo's Soliloquies, and the first 50 Psalms of the Psalter. King Saint Alfred also introduced a new legal code, which, though based on existing laws, was informed by his own principles. In his introduction to this code, King Saint Alfred explained his laws as a continuation of the Holy Past, and Christian law as revealed in the Decalogue, parts of the book of Exodus, and Acts 50, chapter 15, verses 23 to 29. King Saint Alfred founded monastic communities at Shaftesbury and Athelney, and apparently was planning one at Winchester. King Saint Alfred's appointment of well-educated, moral, and virtuous bishops and abbots, who were true men of God, initiated a spiritual revival among the monasteries. Following Guthrum's death in 859, attacks by Vikings from the continent began anew, ending the tranquility which Wessex had known. Though King Saint Alfred's reorganised military proved to be a significant obstacle to the Viking invaders, King Saint Alfred reposed on the 26th of October, 899. Whilst the cause of death is undocumented, it is safe to assume as a result of the painful and unpleasant illness he had suffered his entire life. King Saint Alfred's body was initially buried in Old Minster in Winchester, Hampshire, before being moved to the new Minster. In 1110, his relics were translated to Hyde Abbey, just outside of the walls of Winchester, along with those of his wife and children. During the dissolution of the monasteries, in brackets between 1536 and 1541, the abbey church was demolished, but the graves were untouched. In 1539, a prison was constructed by convicts over the royal graves, as well as those of many others. Unfortunately, the coffins were stripped of their lead, the bones scattered and lost. Hence, no verifiable relics of King Saint Alfred have been found. Okay, he's also the first entry in the group chat, which makes my life easier. Saint Alfred the Great, King of Wessex and all Orthodox England, who defeated the Danish invaders and ensured the growth of the Church of England in England. Brackets 899. A patron of sacred learning, Alfred the Great himself translated into English such works as the Dialogues of St. Gregory the Great. His memory is held by many in great veneration as a patriot and model of Orthodox kingship. I will now bring up some. So, as you can see, I obviously don't read the entry on here. As I've said before, I don't read Celtic Saints entries, nothing against them personally, but obviously I don't know what this prayer is from, but hey, I did find a Troparion for him in Tone 4 through this website, so yay me. Hearkening to the White Christ, thou camest forth from thy flood-girt fastness to overcome the heathen and lead them forth to holy baptism. Thou didst build strong churches, strongholds, shires, and swift ships, restoring the law of God and making thyself beloved of all, O wise King and glory of free England, who reignest in Winchester of the heavenly England. Thou who didst vanquish heathendom by Christendom, establish the new faith in thy land, that we may glorify God, who alone made thee great. I believe our next entry is... Okay, our next entry is going to be for Saints Aneurin and Gwynach, and they are from the 6th century. In brackets, it also does say Gwynach for the son. So, Saint Aneurin and his son, Saint Gwynach, were Welsh monks. Saint Gwynach was the author of a number of Celtic poems, and churches at Aberhafesp, and Llanwnog, both in Powys, Wales, are dedicated to him. The group chat entry says Saint Aneurin, or Gildas, and Gwynach, father and son, both monks in Wales, brackets 6th century. Our next saint... forgive me, I need to bring up the... This is the thingy entry. Saint, very short entry, similar to what we've seen for the others. I believe the next entry is Saint Bean, yes. Our next entry is for Saint Bean, also known as Beaujean, Benus, Bioanus, or Bane, of Mortlach, 11th century. St. Bean was the first recorded noble bishop of Mortlach in Banff, Aberdeenshire, Scotland. Nothing more is known of St. Bean's life, other than that he reposed relatively soon after his consecration to the episcopate. C. 1012. The group chat entry says St. Bean of Mortlach, Bishop of Mortlach in Banff, Scotland. He later preached in Aberdeen. And then in brackets, C. 1012 AD. This is the Celtic Saints website. Nothing. Okay, our next entry will be for St. Cedd. And his monastery is found on... No, forgive me, not monastery. His icon is here, on the right side. Right. St. Cedd was the brother of St. Chad of Lichfield, who commemorated back on the 12th of March, and a monk at Lindisfarne. He laboured for many years enlightening the Midland English. A term St. Bede the Venerable, bracket 26th of May, used to describe the inhabitants of Leicestershire and parts of Lincolnshire and Derbyshire. King Oswiu of Northumbria sent St. Cedd south to serve as bishop of the East Saxons at the request of their king. During his episcopate, St. Cedd actively founded churches for his see as well as monasteries in Tilbury and Lastingham. It is believed St. Cedd succumbed to the plague, reposing on the 26th of October, 664. His feast was originally kept on the 7th of January, though in the Old English breviaries he had a special office, which was usually said on the 2nd of March. On the contemporary calendars of the Moscow Patriarchate, the Archdiocese of Thyatira and Great Britain, bracket Ecumenical Patriarchate, and the Orthodox Church in America, St. Cedd is still commemorated on the 7th of January. His group chat is St. Cedd, Bishop of Lastingham, bracket 664 AD. Brother of St. Chad of Lichfield, he was a monk at Lindisfarne who enlightened the Midlands of England and later became a bishop of the East Saxons. He founded monasteries in Tilbury and Lastingham. He has a slightly longer thingy. I think I looked for a Troparion for him last night, and I don't think I was able to find it. Before I do bring up the Celtic Saints website, I am going to have one last... Oh, wait, no! Okay. He has one on the OCA website. Yeah, okay. Okay. That's... I'm glad I've realised this. Okay, this is his entry. Feel free to pause and read it, and then he has Tone 4, Troparia, just like Saint Alfred. The truth of things revealed you to a flock as a rule of faith, a model of meekness and a teacher of temperance. Therefore, through humility, you attain the heights, and through poverty, riches. O Hierarch Cedd, our father, entreat Christ God that our souls may be saved. Obviously, pretty standard Troparion for a Hierarch saint. And he has a Kontakion in Tone 2. O Hierarch Cedd, divine thunder, spiritual trumpet, planter of faith, and pruner of heresies, great favourite of the Trinity. Sorry about that again. As you stand before God with the angels, pray unceasingly for all of us. Right. Our next entry is for St. Cuthbert of Canterbury. And... Right, he's from the 8th century. Little information on the early life of St. Cuthbert is still extant. It is known that he was an Anglo-Saxon of noble birth, and through his letters to English missionaries on the continent, that he was highly educated. St. Cuthbert succeeded St. Nothelm, who we commemorated back on the 17th of October, as the 11th Archbishop of Canterbury in 740. St. Cuthbert is first recorded as being the abbot of Lyminge Abbey, in southeast Kent, England. Most sources state that he was elevated to the See of Hereford, c. 736. However, these are all dependent upon the words of Florence of Worcester, and then there's like a cross thing, and then 1118 in brackets, and other post-conquest writers. The only contemporary record is in the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which states that St. Cuthbert was consecrated Archbishop of Canterbury in 740. Had he been Bishop of Hereford at the time, he was elevated to the See of Canterbury. He would have been translated, as he already possessed the episcopal state. In addition, as Bishop of Hereford, he is credited with the composition of an epitaph from the tomb of his three predecessors at Hereford, though it is questionable as to whether the Cathedral of the See was even located at Hereford at the time. Due to the significant amount of time between the events and post-conquest chronicling, it cannot be definitively stated St. Cuthbert was Bishop of Hereford prior to his elevation to Canterbury, however likely it might be. As Archbishop, St. Cuthbert recognised the elevation of the See of York to an archbishopric. Pope Gregory III in 735 had sent a pallium to the Bishop of York, elevating the status of the diocese, only consecrating bishops south of the Humber estuary on the east coast of northern England, and having bishops exclusively from the south of England attend his synods. In 747, St. Cuthbert, along with King Ethelbert of Mercia, presided over the Second Council of Cloveshow, which, although primarily called as required by the 7th Canon of the Synod of Hereford, addressed several issues confronting the Church at the time, not the least of which was the behaviour of the clergy, and excessive consumption of alcohol by the bishops, which had even prompted letters of complaint from St. Boniface, who's commemorated on the 5th of June, not just to St. Cuthbert and King Ethelbert, but to the Holy See as well. Wait, oh, that means Rome, right? Okay, to the See of Rome, there we go. Referring to Rome as the Holy See is a bit weird. Anyway, it had been posited that as Archbishop, St. Cuthbert obtained papal permission for the previously forbidden practice of interring the dead within the walls of cities. He then mandated burial in churchyards and the chapel of St. John the Baptist, and then in brackets it says, which unfortunately was destroyed by fire in 1067. Built on the west side of Canterbury Cathedral, though generally used as a baptistry, it was designed to be the burial place for not only himself, but also future archbishops. St. Cuthbert reposed 26th of October 760, and was the first Archbishop of Canterbury to be buried in his own cathedral, not in St. Augustine's Abbey, as were many of his successors. St. Cuthbert of Canterbury, a monk at Lyminge in Kent in England, he became Bishop of Hereford in c. 736 and the 12th Archbishop of Canterbury in c. 740, and then in brackets it says 760. The next bishop is Saint Iata. Oh wait, no, forgive me, I actually need to show off the thingy entry first. St. Cuthbert has a very small entry. It seems that the book is the only source that basically denies that he was Bishop of Hereford. Again, I don't really think it changes too much. I do believe I have to go. There we go. Before we do start reading Saint Exa of... Yeah, okay, wait, he has an icon. I mean, I don't really have space for the icon, but I mean, if I can... it does No, wait, that's not Saint Eata, is it? I mean, this is kind of an icon. I'll show it off for the benefit of all of you, but yeah. Anyway. I'll try and find a Troparion for you all. If he has Troparia, then... It does not appear... It appears he does not have a Troparia, which is a shame. Yeah, okay. He doesn't have a Troparia. That's fine. Right, our next saint, as you probably can guess, is Saint Eata, and he is from the 7th century. Saint Eata entered Lindisfarne as a boy and became a disciple of Saint Aidan, who we commemorate back on the 31st of August. After receiving monastic tonsure, Saint Eata was amongst the 12 monks selected to found a dependent monastery at Melrose in Roxburgh Shire, C.651, where he served as abbot. Approximately 7 years later, Saint Eata left Melrose along with Saint Cuthbert, 20th of March, and others, and founded a monastery at Ripon in Yorkshire. Saint Eata served there as abbot until 661, where he returned to Melrose. Following the Synod of Whitby, (664), Saint Eata was appointed abbot of Lindisfarne, and in 678 he was consecrated bishop of Lindisfarne as well. In 684, Saint Eata was transferred to Hexham, which see he served for the remaining 2 years of his life. Saint Eata reposed in 686 following a bout of dysentery, and was buried at Hexham Abbey. There is one church dedicated to him in England at Actsham in Shropshire. His entry in the group chat is Saint Eata of Hexham, Bishop of Hexham and Abbot of Lindisfarne, (686), a monk at Ripon in England. He later left for Melrose in Scotland, where he became abbot. After the Council of Whitby, he became Abbot of Lindisfarne. In 678, he became Bishop of Lindisfarne and later Hexham. Obviously, that doesn't really comment on whether he accepted the conclusions of the synod or not, but, he has a very long entry here. As you can see, we have a very long entry for him on here. This is pretty much it. Okay, yeah. So feel free to pause this, and we are going to try and find the next entry. Bean Cuthbert. Is it Edfred? Yes. Edfred is next. Though he doesn't appear in the group chat, so I guess we... Interesting. Okay. So this next entry is only in the group only in the book and the, thingy. Anyway. Saint Edfred, also known as Edfred, and he is from the 7th century. So he doesn't have an entry in the group chat, so we will, there we go. According to the English Monology, Saint Edfred was a Northumbrian priest who, whilst visiting Mercia, converted Merawal, a sub-king of the Magonensata, is in brackets, and preached the gospel to his subjects. Saint Edfred is also believed to have founded Leonminster Abbey at Hereford in Hertfordshire, England. He reposed C.675. The thingy entry says this. Oh wait, no, forgive me, there is actually... Okay, I got confused. Do forgive me, there is actually an entry in the book. So, Eadfrith of Leominster, Edfred or Eadfrid, is in brackets. A priest from Northumbria in England, he preached in Mercia and founded a monastery in Leominster. Brackets C.675. Do forgive me for that blunder. Covered. Okay. Right. There is one bonus saint who is not mentioned, who's only mentioned in the group chat, and that is Saint Albinus, also known as Witter, Bishop of Buriburg in Hesse, c. 760 AD. Born in England, he set out with Saint Boniface, also English, to enlighten Germany. In 741, he was consecrated Bishop of Buriburg in Hesse. May those saints intercede for us before the righteous judge. I think... wait, I just want to quickly confirm. There are no Troparions and whatever on here, so I can close this tab, right? I'm probably not gonna put... There were times where I would put that prayer down below, but I mean... But yeah, I'm not gonna do that for today. Right. This was actually the longest of the episodes. Also, there could be a Troparion for Saint Alfred in the thingy. If there is, I'll leave that in the description for you all. Because I'm pretty sure when I brought it up, it did come up with that. But anyway. God bless. Today's actual episode, because this is obviously a day late, will be uploaded later on. Anyway, I've kept you for over half hour. God bless you all, and Amen.